unbox and assemble your Allegro Nextgen reformer, you're going to need the Allegro Nextgen wrench, a 5/16 Allen wrench, a 5/32 Allen wrench. These three will come with your Allegro Nextgen reformer. If you're going to be adding a leg kit, you will also need a 3/16 Allen wrench, which will come with your kit.
Hi, I'm Christine here in the BB Garage, and today we're going to unbox and assemble your Allegro Nextgen reformer. So let's get started. We have the box here, and notice there are staples in it. So always keeping in mind when you are unboxing, when staples are involved, you carefully pull outward on that box. So I'm going to go around the edges. Luckily, those staples, though they're secure, they do easily come out when you give a nice tug. All right, now the lid comes off, and I'm going to take that over, out of the way. Okay, first of all, you get a look, aerial view. You have important information. That's going to have instructions in it. We can do that together in certain cases. We also have little pieces sort of put into nooks and crannies, so make sure you don't just start pulling cardboard out. There may be elements involved that are a part of the reformer. So now I can see here, this piece holds the foot bar. So I'm going to take the foot bar out with this piece of cardboard, and I'm going to set it to the side. That way it's ready when I need it. And then look at this beautiful packaging. Everything has its place. So you see the wheels, you see the risers, the shoulder rests. There's a box there with some goodies inside. So let's take that out. Even if it feels empty, hang on to it. We'll open it up, make sure there's nothing inside that's needed. And you can see you have everything here in that cardboard packaging. The shoulder rests, the risers, the posts, the wheels, and some of the bolts that put the foot bar on with your tools involved. No plastic, just all here in this nice cardboard packaging. Okay, so now take our parts out, set them up here. Now, though this is not our heaviest of reformers, it is a good idea to bring a partner in to lift it out of the box if you have someone available. So I'll do that now. Ta-da! All right, now I'm going to get into my important information because there is a specified order of putting this beautiful reformer together. I should also mention there are going to be legs on this reformer in particular, and they're in this separate box, so we'll get to those a little bit later. Okay, now first, it does specify to put the shoulder rests onto the carriage. So we know they're right here in this beautiful packaging. And there are two parts involved in the shoulder rests. You have the shoulder rests themselves, and then you have the posts. So I'm grabbing both of those. And one thing to make sure, you take a look at your shoulder rests. These bolts are not centered. So if you want to align them in the standard setting rather than a wide setting, make sure that when you place it onto this bracket here, it aligns directly over it and not set out to the side. So as I lay this on, this right here is that standard setting. And then you take the post and right on there, nice and snug, not too tight. You still want to be able to loosen that if need be. Other side, slide it on. There's no gap between the shoulder rest and the bracket. And I'm going to grab my towel and just give a little dusting here. Beautiful. Okay, shoulder rests are on. Now we're going to work on the foot bar assembly. So I'm going to bring some of my hardware and tools down so I can see it all here available to me. First, we're going to take these plungers and set them onto the foot bar plate. Takes a little while to screw them in, and you want to be in the right position to do that. When you go to thread this in, make sure that the big hole there on the plate is lined up with a hole on the track, the foot bar track, so that as you start to thread it, it fits into one of those holes. Good. Make sure it's threaded all the way in, and then take this to the other side, same thing. Line it up, and line it up with this same hole, the corresponding one on the other side. Okay, there we have it. So now the plungers are in. Let's take a look at the bolts here that go with the foot bar. I'm going to set them here on the carriage so they're right where I need them. Now it's time for the foot bar. One thing that's very important when you're installing the foot bar, there's this zipper on the foot bar of the cover. Make sure the zipper is facing away from the carriage. So I have it here. I'm going to take this right alongside those plates, and you'll see that it's going to line up with this center hole. Once I have that lined up, I'm going to then open these plungers and set the foot bar in to that hole. And it might take a little bit of wiggling, coordinating. There we go. So now it's set there, but it's not locked. So it'll hold in place as you put these bolts in. I'll come around to this side to do the first one. Line it up. And I will mention that you do have wrenches there in your hardware and tool packaging. That's going to be useful to make sure this is all set really well with these bolts. So I'm just doing it by hand right now, then I'll go back through with the wrench. Okay. So I hand tightened those. I'm grabbing my open-ended wrench and my Allen wrenches here, because now I can come through with the tools to tighten these up. So with the plungers, take the open-ended wrench, tighten that. Okay, and then the Allen wrench. For those bolts, it will be the bigger Allen wrench. Okay, now once I have those all tightened, I'm just going to test it. Ooh, very nice. And then plungers, lock it open and it will slide. Look at that. Very exciting for the Nextgen Allegro reformer. Okay, foot bar is set. Take my wrenches back over here to the hardware, and now it's time for the risers. I'm actually going to leave these here. As I bring the risers out, I notice that there's one thing that I don't see here yet, and that's the ropes and the straps, because they're so beautifully hidden under the box. So we have ropes And we have straps. Set those here. Take our risers. Very complicated assembly part. I'm kidding, it's not. You have the locking pins. You place the risers in. And you put the locking pin through. Wonderfully simple and stable. Good. Locking pins are in for the risers. And now let's take our ropes. These are the soft touch ropes because of the metal frame. So what we want to do, make sure the loop end is going towards the carriage. We take the rope, feed it through. Again, the rope end goes through the cleat, through the holder. Leave that for the moment, and then I will take this side, take our soft touch loop, thread it through, cinch it, done. Place that over the shoulder rest, and I'm going to tighten the rope. Same thing on the other side. Feed the rope through the pulley. Take that rope through the cleat. And then thread your double padded loop into the soft touch rope. Put this on shoulder rest. Tighten the rope. I'm going to make sure that the ropes are, or rather the straps are at the same part of the shoulder rest as I tighten so that things are even. Perfect. Can set those on the posts. And then I'll take the rope, the extra rope, and thread it underneath those shoulder rests. You can do this a number of different ways. This is just one way that I'll show you today that I'll do it. So that's tucked away. Okay, now that we have the ropes installed, the risers, we would, in order to install the foot strap, we would put the wheels on. However, we're putting legs on this reformer. So we're going to take this a different direction. I'm going to bring my friend out again, and we're going to flip the reformer over in order to install the legs. Now this will also require taking the shoulder rests off and the risers. So I'm going to do all of that now, and we're going to flip this over to install the legs. When you're going to flip your reformer over to install the legs, make sure you have a clean, somewhat soft floor. You don't want to possibly damage the reformer at all. So take a look at your surroundings. Make sure it's a safe space to flip this over because the upholstery will be down. Okay, so now let's get a hold of our leg box. So I'm going to bring this down. Now, if the box is taped, this one, the tape came a little bit loose, you would want to use a knife or a box cutter and just very carefully cut through that tape to break the seal. And then you will see, I'm going to bring my instructions down with me, you will see we have legs. We have hardware, tools, and some new feet. So what we will start with, going to unwrap our legs. Now these are pretty well sealed, so take your time. If you need to make a couple of cuts, just be really careful you don't scratch the legs in that process. I'm going to do my best just to tear it. All right, so we have these two legs. These I've already unwrapped. Now, the end that has the wider footprint and the 2 holes for the bolts are going to go against the reformer, and the smaller footprint is the foot, essentially. So I'm going to make sure I have the corresponding legs on the different corners, so I have them organized. All right, so first we're going to wipe down both the pad and the bottom of the leg with the alcohol wipe, because that's what's going to clean off the surface to put on the adhesive that goes in between them. So I'm going to open up one of the alcohol wipes, dispose, and remember the ridged side or the textured side is what is going to go against the floor, so this is what's going to have the adhesive on it. I'm going to wipe this down. You have to make sure the alcohol dries completely before you put the adhesive on. And I'm going to grab one of these feet, or legs rather, clean this off. All right, so we have one. Let that dry. And then we have the adhesive. I'm going to help the drying process. All right, now you want to stick the adhesive onto the pad first. So I'm watching for it to dry completely. It takes longer than you think, so be patient. There we go. We are drying. All right, now I'm going to stick this on first. All right, so making sure you have the right orientation. And there is a hole in here for the hole in the foot pad. So lining those up. And I'm going to use this to make sure it sticks onto the foot. Okay. Now we place that, because the alcohol dried on the leg, we're going to place this on. Again, lining the hole up and the 45-degree angle. Apply a little pressure. Okay, we will repeat on the other legs. So we've taken the legs, put the feet on the legs, the rubber feet, and now lining them up to the corresponding corners of the reformer, right? So the legs are all lined up. I'm now going to take the original rubber feet off of the frame. So you just untwist and it comes right out, because these are going to be where the new legs will be screwed into the frame. So I take these off. You're welcome to hang on to them if you ever want to put your reformer back into a flat setting. So setting these in a box, maybe with your hardware, your tools, taking these off. All right, now I'm going to start at the top end, because we have one situation at the top end of the reformer with the risers, and then a different one at the bottom of the reformer with the wheels. So starting off, I have this little plate here that I'm going to situate into the frame. Oh, before I do that, I have to take the plastic ends off, so I'm going to take my Allen key to do that. I want to make sure I keep the screws with the corresponding plastic end, because that will get reattached. Okay, we have that. And then also has the locking pin for the riser. So we have this plate, and the plate is going to slide in. You'll see that there's a big hole and a small hole on that plate. You slide that in, you'll see it lines up with those corresponding holes in the frame. Now, what I want to do is have this kind of held in place, and the way we can do that is using the riser. So I'm taking the riser and I'm setting that in. I don't want the bolt facing towards the frame. I want it going horizontal. So it's going to hold that plate in place because we're going to get that leg into position. So first, I want to make sure I can get this lined up. And you might have to wiggle the riser a little bit so that it doesn't get too snugly with the leg. So I'm going to start this one, and that will hold that plate in place. Yep, make sure I still get a wiggle in the riser. And then again, I'm just using my fingers to tighten this. I think I'm out of alignment. There we go. All right, so I held the plate up against the screw. Now I'm going to just wiggle the leg a little bit and take that riser out so that I can get the rest of the screws into the leg. Perfect. Tighten that. Here's the other two. So now I took the riser out. You want to make sure that that plate is still lined up in the big hole perfectly before you tighten up the rest of these screws. I want to mention alternately for putting on these legs, it might also be easier if you prop up the reformer and have the riser holding from the bottom, then it won't get in your way of putting these bolts in. So that's another option. Sitting box light. So again, I have the plate, the big hole, the small hole lining up with those on the frame. I'm going to take that riser and go from the bottom, or rather the top, because we flipped the reformer. Hold that in place, put my locking pin in. Might need to wiggle it a little bit. And then the riser's in place, and you can then put the leg on with the screws. All right, now that I have the screws tightened, I can take the riser back out. And then I can reapply the ends here with my screws and my locking pin. Okay, so now we have the top end situated. The only thing we're missing is these little finishing screws that go into the foot of the leg. So we'll do those at this end so that those are all finished, and then we'll do the other ones on the other end. Now heading down to the foot bar end to assemble those legs. So I have my Allen wrenches here. It's a little bit different because we won't have that same plate that we put in on the top end. So I've got the legs here. We will do the wheels, but I'll do those very end. So now I have my screws here. Get those all organized. Line them up. Then take your Allen wrench and tighten those up. Now that those are tightened, I'm going to take some finishing screws that are going to go into the feet. And I have a washer, a bolt, and a flat screw. So I'm going to take those 3 pieces. I put the screw in. I'm going to then take the washer and then tighten the nut around that. All right, once I have those in and just finger tight, you'll need to get your Allen key, a wrench, and then that will give you the ability to tighten that locking nut up. And we'll do the same on the top end legs. All right, now going into the step of applying the wheels, we're going to flip the reformer back over. So, bringing my friend back out. Okay, getting into the wheels. I'm going to bring the foot bar up, getting that out of the way. I'm going to bring the wheels over and the additional brackets that go on the legs. Here we are. So, first I'm going to put those new brackets onto the legs. They have 2 holes on the end and 1 in the center. Now this is what the wheel will be attached to. It is a bit of a tight spot, so be patient with yourself. Getting that nut in there on that screw. All right, now same idea as earlier. Going to take the corresponding Allen wrench. So you have to stabilize the bolt or the nut. You have to stabilize the nut while you turn the screw. It is a bit tricky, so be patient with yourself. All right, so now that we've tightened up these new brackets on the legs, we are going to take the brackets that have the wheels and we're going to put new brackets on, not for the wheels. The wheels are going to go on these bottom ones, but we do need somewhere for that foot strap to go. So I am going to first loosen these because that's where these other brackets will go. Now, if you did not have a leg kit, these would be the attachment that you would put on the end of this track here for the wheels and for the foot strap, just so you know. But since we have a leg kit for this reformer, we are adding in different brackets. All right, so we have this one, and we have these lovely brackets here sliding right in. And that hole for the foot strap is right there facing upwards. Just going to tighten that with my fingers first. There it is. And we'll do the other side, same thing. Very good. Okay, now we're going to attach the wheels to the new brackets on the legs. So I have some fancy tools for that. I have a socket wrench and I'm going to need my open-ended wrench as well. So I hold one still, use my socket wrench, and I'm going to take the wheel off of this bracket. Oh. Because the bracket isn't anchored to anything, it will need a little bit of coordination on your part. There we go. Now, the important thing about this is once you take the bolt off, you want to make sure that it all stays organized the same way because you want to apply the same settings to the brackets down here on the legs. So I'm making sure I have everything organized. When the wheel is attached to that bracket, it's on the inside of the bracket. Okay, so I hope that was clear enough. I'm going to set these down kind of in line to where I'm going to install it because you want to make sure the washers get in the correct places. There is a washer between the wheel and the bracket. That's very important. So I take the bolt, I'm going to go through the bracket and then put the washer on. So the washer is the barrier between the wheel and the bracket. And then another washer on the other side of the wheel. So the wheel has a little washer sandwich. And then the nut on the other side. And again, once I have those loosely on there, I can then tighten it with my wrench. Gotta grab the right wrench. So I stabilize the nut. Okay, it's getting there. Making sure that it's not so snug that the wheel doesn't spin defeats the purpose. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now this would be the time where if you did have a foot strap, you could attach it to those new brackets that are right there next to the foot bar. I'm going to place everything back onto the frame. We've got the shoulder rests, the risers, the ropes, and we can get this baby finished. So. Make sure you take the cardboard out so that it lays onto the frame. All right, so there is your assembly of your Allegro Nextgen reformer. Enjoy.